Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the EFL Fantasy Podcast. My name is Angus,
And my name is Dan.
and we are back for another episode. As you could probably tell, Jamie's not here. Um, he he's cried off this one again. He will be back with us soon, but he couldn't make this one, so it's just the two of us again. So we are here to review Game Week 8. I think it's 8. Quickly checks. Yes, it's Game Week 8. So, Dan, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Angus. Bad result for Luton, but used the first boost
Yeah,
this game week and got a good score. So yeah, climbed up the rankings, which is good.
yeah. Obviously, it's always fun when you when you go into playing a boost. Like you say, it's first of the season for me as well. But there's sort of extra satisfaction when you play a boost and it goes well.
Yeah, it's
so so yeah, so I'll kick us off in terms of scores. I was on the Park the Bus. We both were. I got 111. We are recording Tuesday night. There might be a slight change there. One of the results is incorrect as of the time of recording. As people have pointed out, the Blackburn Bristol City game in terms of the defensive points is incorrect at the moment. But as it stands, that doesn't affect my team, so hopefully it shouldn't be a problem. But as it stands, I'm on 111 on my Park the Bus, which was game week rank of 70 and takes me up to currently to 166th overall. So obviously I'm very happy. I'm even more happy because that was without a goalkeeper. So Fisher being left out for Swansea, I thought I had no problems, so I was happy to wait for Buzanis to get his start. So those are my two keepers. So this weekend I had no keeper, but Brady, Giles, Jones, Bree, and Ahmed Hodzic on the Park the Bus combined for I think it's about 80 points. Um, yeah, 80 points. So obviously, when people have asked me before, I've said, you want at least 50 points from your defenders for a good Park the Bus. Anything above 60 is great. So obviously, I'm sitting there looking at my 80 points combined, being like, fantastic. Particularly given that a number of the players that people would have been captaining otherwise didn't do anything. So I think that's the other thing that's really helped me gain this week. My other players were Jed Wallace with 4, Swift with 6, Chair with 5, Stupinian with 5, and Vyman with 11. So yeah, all in all, very happy. My previous plan has almost certainly changed now, particularly with a couple of the issues around Fisher's benching. But yeah, feeling in a pretty good place. Obviously, been climbing nicely now and pretty happy with where my rank is and actually excited to sort of plan ahead and work out how to sort of maximize this. So yeah, all good at the moment. How was your week, Dan?
yeah, slightly bit better. I played part of the bus as well as you did. We got 118. Um, Again, I had Fisher, so I had no playing goalie, so only 10 players. I got 84 from my five defenders. Pretty much the same lineup: Brady, Giles, Bree, Jones. I've got Aaron's instead of the Sheffield United defender you have. Um, so yeah, you can't really complain. I think it was three clean sheets and a couple of attacking returns, and they're so good on bonus. Um, I also had Swift for 6, Chair for 5, NDI for 10, Vyman for 11, and Grant for 2. So I've climbed up to 302nd, which is a rise of 500 places. So after that disastrous game week 6 where I basically dropped 500. It's taken me 2 weeks to get back up. But yeah, my team's in a good position. Was going to play away days next game week, but with the Fisher news, it'd probably mean I have to take a -8. So I'm going to postpone that until a later week, which I'm not fully decided on. But yeah, happy with how my team's set up. So looking forward to hopefully push up towards the top 100.
Yeah. Obviously, it's a very good week all round. I think. Yeah, for clarification, when I was talking about my plan changing, I was planning on away days in 9 as well. I have the Fisher issue. I was going to be able to use my 2 free transfers to get to 11 away players, but I'd now have to replace Fisher, and that was on the assumption that Obafemi might be playing, and he was dropped from the squad entirely at the weekend. So
Yeah.
even if there's a chance he's going to come back in, it's not a chance I can really take on something like away days with a forward position. So the fact that I would need a -8 is just a step too far for me when I can sort of push it ahead. I don't have to force it this week, and I can reevaluate it for a later week. So I'm in a similar boat where I don't really want to take a -8 into it. So I'll be looking at another week. The pod team did significantly worse than us. I mean, obviously we'd already played the park the bus quite successfully, so but we only scored 60 points this week, which was also less than both guys on Gaffr and the community team. So we finished third this week. We had the same goalkeeper issue. We also decided to buy Ismail Assar and captain him for him to not
That's
play.
what happens when you bring in Watford players.
Yeah,
Can't be trusted.
Can't trust them at all. We had Brady, Jones, Bree, Aarons, and Lowe. So obviously Lowe, with his assist in the first half, looked like it was going to be decent return. Even the fact he went off after 29 minutes, so he didn't even get that first half clean sheet in there by a minute. But that was pretty good. We had Chair as the emergency captain, so he became the captain, which was 10. Campbell and Ugbene 2 each. Carl and Grant for 2. And Brereton Diaz as vice captain for 10. We also bought Ross Stewart.
We listened to Jamie on that one. He had the same problem, I think.
So our 2 purchases this week were Sarr and Stewart, as I'm sure a number of people purchased one, if not both. So that was the pod team had a game week rank of 4.5k, is down to 520th, but a couple of things that need changing there. It depends on the SAR situation, which I haven't seen an update on. Otherwise, it's not too badly set up, but obviously a bad week and a bad week to have a bad week as well. But we'll sort of press on and make the best of it. But yeah, we'll get into the games now. And the first game we're going to talk about is Norwich 3, Coventry Nil. So Dan, kick us off on this one.
Yeah, so a 3-0 win for Norwich. Pookie started, which meant, as we thought, Sargent moved to right wing. Ramsey and Cantwell also played. Byram was at left back. Coventry, I cannot believe this when you posted about it that they didn't start Godden or Victor. Wilson was in goal. After Moore's numerous mistakes, Wilson started in goal. And I get the feeling Norwich are starting to click now. They've had a few game weeks. Although they've been winning, they've been scraping results. This was probably the first performance where I thought, yeah, Norwich are back. Pookie obviously got his first goal of the season. He looked quite relieved. Nunes assist. Josh Sargent scored. And then assisted for even more points. Coventry did have a goal disallowed, I think at 2-0, which obviously changed the game. But yeah, it's just Norwich are starting to click now. I've only got Aaron's, so although I think they've got Burnley this week, they're definitely, I think they're on the radar now. We might need to either go back to Pookie, or I might have to omit it and get Josh Sargent in. I don't know what you feel about maybe Pookie first, Angus.
We've been saying that it wasn't going to be long until he was back in the team, and obviously that was the case here. And the way he took his goal as well, that's what Teemu Pukki's all about.
Yeah.
Particularly at this level, there's an extra level of quality. Like, essentially, he's a Premier League striker playing in the Championship, and you can see that when he plays. So I wasn't surprised to see him come back in. I won't be going straight back there, in part because I probably have to shift around one too many things. But he's very much back on the radar, particularly if I do overhaul, particularly potentially if I'm looking at away days later on, I might overhaul into it, at which point it's easier to get Pookie back in. But I do think he should very much be on the radar, because if that's the start of it clicking for him, then we've seen when he's been in the Championship before, if he sort of starts putting it together, he could really haul, he could really go on a run. So I think it's one to, I wouldn't necessarily be rushing to go back unless you've got like an issue. But it's certainly one to keep an eye on. In terms of Josh Sargent, I have a Michael Obafemi issue, and Josh Sargent might be the answer to my Michael Obafemi issue.
I wouldn't blame you. It's just, and he's even scored now and assisted from right wing as well. And you get the feeling he's like a manager's dream, like he's hard working, and now he's obviously a good Championship player because he's returning in it. So definitely an option. It's just, I just want to wait and see, because there's no doubt that Pookie is the main man, and you don't want to, in a few weeks, they start rotating Sargent. That would be my only worry. And two of the next three games are Burnley and West Brom, so it's not like the easiest games. Also, what do you think about the midfielders? They've seen behind, two of the three spots seem to be rotated quite a bit. And then you've got that Nunes, who looks like just a really good player at this level, and he seems to just do quite well. Any thoughts for going to Nunes, Angus?
Not necessarily for me.
Yeah.
I think it would be a mix of things for me, where I think he's clearly a good player. He would drive me insane because he's a good player. But the man, once he gets within 40 yards of goal, thinks the best play is to shoot. And it's not that he's bad at shooting, but particularly when you're in one of the better teams, it's like occasionally just pass the ball.
I know, but if he gets it on target, every shot on target goes towards the bonus, Angus.
But I'm not sort of rushing to get him. The midfield sort of behind is interesting. The one who seems to be doing well, and also seems to be doing well even if he comes on as a sub, is Ramsey.
Yeah.
So he might be the other one that would interest me, just because, like I said, even if he's coming off the bench, he seems to even be returning when he comes off the bench. So that's a potential one. But I think at the moment, really, you're probably looking at a defender. I don't hate the idea of the people who've gone for two defenders. Something like adding Omobamidele to Aaron's. I think I wouldn't rush to go for Grant Hanley, but in part because I also think he's a card waiting to happen. because he's a bit less mobile. So you see sometimes if he gets caught out, he'll just bring someone down. But otherwise, I think you're looking at Aaron, you're looking at Pookie, and you're looking at Sargent, maybe Nunez.
Yeah.
On the flip side, we should probably mention Coventry. I
Are
think
you
Wilson's
starting
got
to
the
get?
shirt now, hasn't he? I think that's 2 games he started.
Yeah, obviously we haven't podded. We missed them midweek. But I don't know. I'm just not being impressed with them to start with. I know they've had all the issues with the ground, so they're 3 games behind. But they're bottom of the table now, Angus,
Yeah,
and they're 7 points from safety. Like I know it's early in the season, but that's still quite a lot to catch up. And this season, there's no team that has points deductions or last year we had Barnsley and Peterborough who were clearly just not good enough for the championship. Even teams like Birmingham and Reading and Rotherham, who we thought we might struggle, seem to be competent in picking up points. So I'm starting to worry. Maybe they're a team to target because last year they were very attacking, but they were scoring the goals. They've sold probably their best defender to Blackburn and haven't really replaced him. So I'm definitely looking to target them if possible.
yeah. I mean, it's interesting because actually after the first, I think it was first 3 games where you start looking, particularly if you're into your data, you start looking at things like, okay, who's got the best XG for, who's got the best XG against, and so you got to the likes of, I think it was Hull and Birmingham as the worst XG against accumulated. I think Hull were around 2 XG against a game. The thing that we didn't notice because they played fewer games were Coventry were also conceding XG at that rate. So we maybe should have seen this sort of thing coming. And it does seem to be a real issue. Obviously, you could sort of argue that, okay, well, they've played fewer games, so like even one particularly bad game can maybe skew the numbers a little bit. But it doesn't look that way when you watch them. It looks like, oh yeah, you can understand how that's happening. So at the moment, I'm a little bit worried for them. I'm sure it will help them a bit more going forward when Callum O'Hare gets back, but that's not about to happen. So they're going to have to find a way to concede fewer goals because there's only so much that improving the attacking personnel can make up for it if you're going to concede multiple goals a game.
Well, if you're conceding 2 goals a game,
Yeah.
you're going to be near the bottom.
Yeah. And
it's simple as that.
I mean, the other thing I will say, the slight sort of, not literally consolation for them, but the one sort of thing in their defence. I have no idea what Carl McFadzean's goal has been disallowed for.
Yeah. Well, was Tyler Walker in line of the goalie, I think they were trying to say.
They were trying to say that. He really, really wasn't.
No, he wasn't, though.
And he ducks out of the way. He's not trying to play the ball either. He ducks out of the way because, the shot's coming screaming at him. So the one thing I would say in their favour almost is there's no way that goal should have been disallowed. But at the same time, that means that you're losing 3-1. It's still not great. So they potentially are targetable at the moment.
They played West Brom this week.
Yeah. We'll touch a bit on them, but they are, in attacking terms, one of the more sort of trolly teams. So having them against a team that looks this bad defensively could provoke some very interesting reactions. But we'll move on from them to the next game, which was Blackburn 2, Bristol City 3. Obviously, quite a bit of ownership in this game is the first thing to sort of talk about. Is 2 teams that will be quite popular. Best I could tell in this, Blackburn's sort of defensive situation has got to the point where I think Lewis Travis was playing right back. which I think hurts them a little bit in midfield. I mean, I think Tyler Morton and Adam Wharton are perfectly capable young players, but that sort of experience and ability in the middle of the park, losing that because you have to fill in elsewhere is a bit of a problem. Hedges back into the team, and Hurst started straight away up front. But it was Bristol City that obviously had the better of it, and Conway got the goal. And I think that it was well sort of found by Weimann, who, despite not being in the goals, did pick up a couple of assists. He then got an assist for Nahki Wells, and Nahki Wells, or first Tyrese Dolan got a goal back with sort of a very powerful finish. Nahki Wells then got a second. Then Ben Brereton Diaz in the 93rd minute getting owners and a number of captainers and vice captainers a return. So that will have sort of helped people out. I think it's interesting at the moment though with these two teams. You've got a little bit of uncertainty at the moment with Blackburn, particularly with a few players missing, particularly defensively. There was no Ayala. There was no. I mean, there's still no Wharton. Carter had to play centre back. So I think that there's a little bit that needs to be sort of sorted there. But they've kept Brereton Diaz, which is the main thing really. And so I think he will continue to be a good option. But he's probably the only one for Blackburn I'd be looking at the moment. Bristol City, team's pretty settled at this point. The only real reasons they've had to change is the odd sort of little bit of rotation, or there was the period where Mark Sykes was suspended, and so they changed the team as a result of him being out. But the really interesting thing is that is when, as and when this front three changes, because obviously at the moment it's Weimann behind Conway and Wells. There's only so long, surely, that they're going to use Antoine Semenyo off the bench. He's that good. Like, I know that Conway and Wells are both playing really well and scoring goals and everything, and Andy Weimann's playing well. Like, he may not be in the goals, and people are looking at it like, do I really want to, be holding on to him? He's still involved. There are going to be fewer goals probably from that position, but he's still ticking over the points. And I'm sure, if you have no other fires, maybe you want to reevaluate whether you want him in terms of if he's going to be less of a goal threat. But he's still perfectly fine at the moment. And I think some people have gone on Conway. I think he's looking like a good pick. He's scored again. Can't really see him coming out the team. Pearson seems like the sort of manager who likes to change a winning team as little as possible. And fair play to Nahki Wells. We were sort of saying, oh yeah, he's perfectly good backup striker to have, but his career is sort of like a story of everyone gets excited and it doesn't quite happen, and maybe this is just a nice run of goals and then it's sort of not going to happen again. But he's playing well at the moment and he's scoring goals, and I wouldn't advocate for him because I think he's at best the third best Bristol City attacking option to go for. I'd still put Weimann ahead of him even if he's not in the goals as much, and I'd put Conway ahead of him because if you're not going to go for Weimann, you might as well go all the way down to Conway. I don't know what your thoughts are on these teams, Dan.
Bristol City, obviously I've had Weimann since the start, and he was playing up front, and now he's dropped back into the 10. I'm not sure it's ideal, but what you get with Weimann is someone who'll play probably 85, 90 minutes near enough every game week unless he's injured. There might be a time where, as you said, there are better options, and then you can then move. I wouldn't go anywhere else though in that lineup. it feels like they're just waiting to bring Semenyo back in. They took off Conway on the 63rd minute, and he's a youngster, and what will happen eventually is in maybe next game or in the next couple of games he won't play as well. They'll have a midweek game. They'll play Semenyo, and then he'll score, and then Conway will get dropped. So I'd stay away from that. Although he has done ridiculously well. Obviously knows where the net is, but so does Semenyo. Um, so yeah, Blackburn, as you said, it's just Brera and Diaz. To be honest, they're still really struggling to actually create that many good chances. Um, so it's tricky to go anyone apart from Brera and Diaz, really. And even then, he's probably only getting in the team because he's outperforming in his XG. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe that's maybe he's one of these players that can continue to outperform it a bit at this point. I wouldn't want to make that blanket statement, but you do get some guys that are able to outperform it, and maybe he is one of those players. But yeah, I think your point as well on Conway is certainly fair in terms of he seems like the obvious one. Well, both of those strikers actually, it's sort of like, at any moment, if they marginally lose form or stop scoring goals, Semenyo is going to come in quite quickly. But we'll move on to the next game, which is Hull 0, Sheffield United 2. Dan, kick us off on this one.
Yes, so Tufan for Hull came back in. Seri was on the bench. Sheffield United were unchanged. So that meant McBurney was still up front with NDI. And they were pretty settled. McBurney scored a low assist, so that's now 3-3 for McBurney. Low, another attacking return for Low. Stupid then missed basically a one-on-one and then a rebound against Fodringham, who I thought done really well, especially for the second save to get back up to save. But just another couple of big chances for Stupinen. Probably didn't score because they weren't in the 6-yard box, to be honest. And then I will mention that Lowe did go off injured for Basham, which isn't ideal. I'm not sure if we've had any news about that, Angus, have we?
I think I saw it's likely to be at least a couple of weeks. I think it was a hamstring issue. So
yeah, and with the it's a 3-game week. Next game week, that probably makes him a sell then. And then Sanderberg got the second assist NDI. So I think it was just a professional performance here. Looking at closer into the data, Hull created 3 big chances. Sheffield United didn't. So it was just good finishing from some good players. I'm guessing the main thing we need to talk about for Sheffield United is McBurney an option, Angus? 3 goals in 3 games.
I have softened my stance on Josh Sargent. You'll not catch me doing it about Ollie McBurney. Don't get me wrong, he has actually been playing quite well for them, and he's certainly working hard. He's probably got the goals his hard work deserved, but I'm still not sure how good a player he actually is. So I will not be advocating for Ollie McBurney. I also think he came off relatively early for Rhian Brewster. So you've got Rhian Brewster there, and at some point, probably before too long, Billy Sharp will come back as well.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, do you really want to be signing up for that? We've been talking about the issue of potential rotation before. It could all come back round again. So no, I would not be going for Ollie McBurney.
I don't think there's too much more in this. Obviously, Low coming out is going to be a blow. Hull, I think if you got a Stupin, I think you keep him. Against one of the best teams in the league, he still had chances to score. I think he goes on to Cardiff now, so that's a decent game where I've got him. I'm going to play him this game week. I don't know if you've got anything else about this game, Angus.
Um, I don't think so, really. I think the fit Sheffield United defenders, decent options. I'm on Ahmed Hodzic. Little bit annoyed about his booking because I think he might well have been on for bonus if he hadn't got booked. But I think Norrington Davis is playing well at the moment, and I think he'll be even more nailed now with Low being out. So
Probably means he's going to go to left wing back.
yeah,
I'm guessing.
but I think apparently he played quite well. I didn't manage to see the game, but apparently he played quite well there when he went there. So it might mean that he's a bit more of an option. Is the one thing I'd say. And yeah, Hull, Estupiñán's still a good pick. That's about it really. We'll move on to our next game. West Brom 1, Burnley 1. It's quite an interesting game actually. I thought in some ways on Friday night. Chances for both teams. I think there were 34 shots in the game. My favourite stat, particularly because I don't own him, was West Brom had 23 shots. Carlan Grant had one of them. And that was one where he should have passed the ball. I think it was to Diangana. Basically waited for the defender to close him down and then shot straight into the defender. And that was his one shot of the game. I saw other people sort of sharing stories of like there was a cross into the box late in the game and he wasn't even in the box and all that sort of thing. But no, I mean, I think that it would be interesting because obviously the majority of that West Brom lineup has been pretty settled. Bartley came in for the injured Ajayi. Gardner Hickman started with Furlong missing out. I assume he's injured. I forgot to look into it, but given that he was out of the squad completely, it's hard to imagine him being dropped in that scenario. But the rest of it seems pretty settled at this point. For Burnley, yeah, I mean the interesting thing for them was Vitinho went to right wing. Maatsen came back into the team, but Vitinho stayed in the team and went and played on the right wing. Whether that's going to continue with the number of sort of wingers or forwards they've signed, I'm not sure. But he's clearly someone that Kompany, wants involved and likes having in the team. So that's interesting. Burnley opened the scoring with a penalty. It was a long ball from Norwich. It wasn't just sort of, pumped it upfield. He's looking for Teller's run. And Teller brings it down brilliantly. Button does get a touch on the ball, but he does then clatter or bring down. It wasn't really clattering, bring down Nathan Teller. I'm never sure with those if he wins the ball first, but then takes him down, like whether it should be a penalty or not. But it was given, and Jay Rodriguez put it away quite emphatically. Both teams had chances. I mean, both teams, I think, hit the woodwork. Burnley probably should have killed the game off, particularly Cherlinov. He's a bright player. Dives all over the shot, but he looks like he's going to make things happen. And then eventually, in the 98th minute, it was Brandon Thomas Asante in his first game off the bench. Managed to divert the ball into the goal. Q sort of with essentially an assist from Connor Roberts, making a right mess of trying to clear the ball. It's interesting to sort of talk about this game and think about this game and try and sort of have an opinion on it, because over the balance of the chances and everything, you sort of feel like West Brom that should have won. But then you think about some of the other chances that Burnley had in addition to their goal and think, well, they could have won as well. So I think these are probably two of the better teams in the division. I think a lot of people are going to be in a similar sort of place as always in terms of frustration with West Brom attacking assets. Although Jed Wallace and John Swift both in the bonus again. I think that's something that you will see pretty often at this point. But yeah, I mean, Carlton Grant owners, it's a bit different for you. And I would be sort of highly frustrated with him and a little bit concerned because
I'm concerned, but they're playing Coventry.
Yeah,
so
but
like,
it depends how much pressure Thomas Asante is going to put on, how much sort of leeway Carlton Grant still has in the first choice team. But I think he'll still be fine. And like you say, there is that Coventry game, but yeah, the lack of involvement in terms of the actual sort of shots and chances and everything would be a little bit of a concern for me. But there are then other games where he's on the end of everything, so it's a little bit of swings back and forth with him. But Dan, I don't know what your thoughts are from this game.
yeah, I just thought West Brom with final ball at times was just terrible. It was like the wrong decision constantly, or overplaying, or it was all of them, that really, the front four. I know you've mentioned about the Grant thing, but yeah, it was just frustrating watching it. I've got Swift and Grant, and at times they look like they should easily create chances, and it's been the same on numerous times. Watford, they should have beat Watford as well, but they just don't seem to be able to put the ball in the back of the net. Burnley, one thing I thought was interesting is, although Madsen started, when they were holding on to the lead, Company was very quick to take him off. He came off on the 64th minute. So does he really trust him? He wanted to get Vitinho back to left back. It's good if you've got him. I think you probably hold him, but it's just one thing to keep an eye out with. I'm currently on no Burnley. I don't know if you are, Angus.
No, I think obviously I've been a bit punished by not owning Brownhill,
Yeah.
but and in this one it's sort of Jay Rodriguez, and Nathan Teller in the returns again, and those are two I've got my eye on. They're probably the main two now, even though Brownhill presents great value. Those are the two I'm looking at. I've also got a little eye on the goalkeeper situation. Norwich came off, and so it potentially provides a slightly more affordable way into the goalkeeper position. So it just depends what the situation with him is, but I think mainly for me it's looking at those sort of attacking players. Jay Rodriguez is another one that could be the answer to my Michael Obafemi problem.
We've got Norwich this week though.
Yeah, and that's sort of the issue for me. On West Brom, I was all excited to have them on my away day and then get rid of them. I'm not playing the away day anymore, but I will at least have the two of them. But then game week 10 they play Birmingham, which could obviously be another good week for them, but I think they might be gone after that for me, at least one of them.
Yeah.
But we'll move on to the next game, which is Luton 1, Wigan 2. Dan, talk to us about this one.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure how Wigan won this game, to be honest. So Luton made one change. Osho came in for Burke, who was injured. He got a facial injury against Cardiff. Cornick and Bradley were back on the bench. I think Wigan, it was pretty much their normal lineup. McGuinness was back up front. We started quite well. Scored a goal, a nicely worked corner to Bree, who was sort of in the middle of the pitch, and he lofted the ball into to Morris, who another great header, pretty similar to the one he got against Sheffield United, to make it 1-0. I will mention before that Adebayo had a one-on-one, which the keeper made a great save. That was near enough, second or third minute. We had another chance. Freeman long range shot, and Lockyer had a header cleared off the line. And even in the second half, it was literally all us. And then, to be fair, Wigan made a few changes up front. And the first goal came from Bell tried to kick the ball down the line. It took a massive ricochet off their player, and it basically played him in on the edge of the box, and he cut it back to the striker who scuffed it, and it's ended up hitting Lockyer on the back of a heel and going in. And then this is where I think Jones went ultra attacking, and at this point, we ended up with Woodrow, Jerome, Cornick, Berry, Fred Onyedinma on the pitch. We were just massively we went basically gun ho, and we got caught on the counter. And to be fair, it was a great finish by Asgard. As soon as he bent it, I was sitting near enough directly behind it, and I knew it was in. But I'm not quite sure how we've lost the game. Wigan were quite organised, so I can see how they've not really been battered apart from the Burnley game, and before this weekend they'd drawn 4 games, so I can see they're sticking in games, but Luton should have won this 1 or 2-0 really. I don't know if you've got anything else, Angus.
I don't think so. Just Bree with the assist for
It's
all of us owners.
James Bree doing James Bree things.
Yeah. On the Park the Bus as well, much appreciated.
Yeah.
And I think Tilo Asgard is one to watch. Nick, who obviously did the sort of Wigan information for our season preview, mentioned him if he gets minutes, about him being a really sort of good young talent. So be interesting to see. I mean, obviously that strike was a taste of it, but it'd be interesting to see as and when he gets more minutes, whether he can potentially be an option, because I think he is quite cheap.
I think he's 5 million, isn't
he? Yeah. But we'll move on. We'll go on to one of the sole reasons that I am going to say that Jamie is not on the pod, which is Reading 2, Stoke 1. So obviously, interestingly for Reading, they look like they went to a 3-5-2 to match up with Stoke, or match up what they thought Stoke were going to do, with Tom Ince very much part of a midfield 3, with Hendrick and Forner, and Long and Xiao both up front. For Stoke, there was sort of the 3-5-2 in there. Interestingly, with Jacob Brown and Tariq Fosu as the wing backs, though, so we saw that and thought, well, at least it's an attacking version of the 3-5-2, with then Delap and Campbell up front. Within 2 minutes, you sort of had just a delightful sort of set of errors where you can blame 3 different players on the goal. So Lumley plays it long upfield, and again, it's one where he is trying to hit Xiao, but Wilmot makes a complete mess of the ball initially and is nowhere near. It ends up nowhere near it. Bonham, for some reason, decides that what he needs to do is charge out of his goal, gets completely caught under the ball. It just bounces over his head. He's taken out the game. Joao then puts the finish at goal, and Aidan Flint is actually in a decent position to clear it. Makes a complete mess of it, and I think it comes off his shin and goes in. And it's just one of those things where you think, like, all the sort of game planning that Alex Neil could have done, and that happens in the second minute. Like, you couldn't make it up. I thought Lucas Xiao actually led the line quite well. I mean, Shane Long was alongside him, but it's really about sort of Lucas Xiao in terms of the attack. Thought Stoke had their moments. Ben Wilmot obviously scored late in the half from a Flint knockdown from a corner, and then Zhao got scored a penalty in the second half. I think he won it, didn't he? Brought down by Wilmot. So, you know, Wilmot negatively involved in 2 goals, scored 1, but you know, the scored goal doesn't really count when you're at least some degree at fault in both the goals. And it was a good penalty by Lucas Xiao, but yeah, I'm not entirely sure what to make of these two. I mean, Lumley, he's got an assist to go along with the second half clean sheet, so he's obviously returned nicely for owners. Lucas Xiao, he'll come up in the questions later. We know if he can get a run in the team, he's a decent option at this level. All credit, particularly because it was a different sort of performance, all credit as well to Tom Ince. I thought he did really, really well. He was asked to play a different role. He was asked to, you know, take on more defensive responsibility as well, and he did it really well, whilst also then trying to get involved when Reading went the other way. So I was quite impressed by him, and I think if people do have him, there's certainly no reason to come off him. From the Stoke point of view, I don't think you can justify going for any of them at the moment. I think it seems to have looked slightly better under Alex Neil. There are still clearly issues. I think it's going to take him a while to change to whatever he wants to do, because with the team having been so drilled in playing the 3-5-2, there's, you know, you can't just change things at the drop of a hat, and because it's just not practical. I think that's the problem they've run into. It would be interesting to see come the international break how much he can change. The other big thing for them in this game was Nick Powell came off the bench. He made his return, and that could obviously be significant for them, particularly sort of even just shifting things around slightly. Like, I know we've talked, even though I think a lot of Stoke fans would like to go to a back 4, that the sort of 3-4-1-2 that Neil was deploying at Sunderland, that could work for Stoke, particularly if you have someone like Nick Powell to play in that role behind the strikers. That could work quite well for them. But yeah, I don't know if you have anything else to add on these teams, Dan.
I just thought I was impressed with Reading. I think going into this season, especially after last year, we thought they were going to be a disaster at the back, and Ince wasn't good enough as manager. But what he has done is there's a lot of experienced players in here. I know Sam Hutchinson, Hendrick, Ince, Long, Hoylett. They're seasoned pros, so they know how to play the game, and they know how to manage a game. The issue is still the bench. if they get too many injuries, they're going to be in trouble. But this game just suited them straight away. They were one up in the first 2 minutes. They can then hit them on the counter and use the pace of Ince and Xiao. It's like I said, I think Reading were decent, and although they've got hammered a couple of times, their data is actually quite good defensively. I'm not saying we're gonna go for any of them, but there are some cheap options there for 4.5 or 5 where it's not maybe not the worst to go for them. Stoke is I just don't know what to make of them. The the, the goalie's a nightmare again. Are they going to put Bursic back in goal? The back three are they just can't run. They've got two wingers playing as wing backs. I don't know. Liam Delap and Campbell it's just not clicking at the minute. But I'm gonna not talk too much because they play Luton at the weekend. But yeah, they're just a wait and see Stoke massively, and Reading probably Ince, maybe Xiao if you want to go for a punt, but or a cheap defender. But I'm not gonna go there. I don't think.
So we'll move on. The next game we've got is Millwall 2, Cardiff nil. Dan, talk to us about this one.
Yeah, let me just find my notes. So Shackleton was in at right wing back, sorry. Styles, who they'd signed literally, I think they just got the paperwork in last few minutes of deadline day, came in at left wing back. So Malone was benched. Fleming started. Honeyman was benched. He sort of just rotated a lot of the squad because it's not been doing that well. And once again, Mill relied on set pieces. Game week 1 hero, Cresswell came off the bench to score another header. He then got an assist for Benicophobe to score last minute. So it's just a comfortable 2-0 win really for Cardiff. Biggest news for Cardiff was Robinson was on the bench. He did come on at half time, and I think we've seen for a while that Morrison doesn't really rate Max Waters. We've seen a number of times he's come off at half time or 60 minutes. So I think moving forward, Robinson's going to be starting up front through the middle. I've not got much more about this game, to be honest, Angus. I don't know if you have.
I think the other thing worth mentioning that we sort of talked about is it looks like Malone has lost his place at this point. I think it's back-to-back games he hasn't started now. And I know there'd been concerns about his place and his performance level. So at least for the moment, it looks like he's lost his place. But yeah, apart from that, not a lot to sort of take from it really. Cresswell with another sort of big header. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
But we'll move on to the next game. Keep it sort of ticking along. Middlesbrough 1, Sunderland nil. So obviously the big thing with this one, the biggest news actually probably was in the warm-up where Ross Stewart got injured. Mowbray confirmed afterwards best case scenario is out 2 to 3 weeks. It could be a bit longer than that. They just need to get it scanned. But obviously, that's not ideal for them. And they tried as little as possible to change the system with bringing Patrick Roberts in. Didn't quite work, which, you could sort of see the impact of, a last minute change. I thought Ellis Sims did quite well up front for them, but a lot of the time he was sort of having to hold it up and try and wait for players to come and support, or he was having to hold it up against multiple players. I think that was a bit of an issue for him, and it made for quite a long night for him. I also thought at times the Middlesbrough defenders were quite smart about going down when he made just enough contact with them and that sort of thing, which, it's that little bit of experience that they used against him. But yeah, so Middlesbrough, I think aside from Zach Steffen, you could maybe debate Fry versus Lenihan as the middle of the back three. This seemed to be the first choice lineup. McNair and Clark either side, Jones and Giles wing backs, Crooks, House and Mowat. And it seems at the moment to be McGree behind Muniz is the preferred attack. I thought McGree looked very bright in this game. A lot of it seemed to be going through him. He seemed to be popping up in the final third, either sort of on the end of things or heavily involved in things. Obviously, they have a different sort of dynamic with Muniz up front. It's someone that you can hit. It's someone that with sort of a more direct ball and get players around him. But yeah, McGree got the goal. Giles assist after a lot of sort of controversy about it not being awarded. I think anyone who looks at it can say that's an assist, really. But yeah, I think the big thing for Middlesbrough, clean sheet. It's the sort of thing that's been waiting. I've actually been pleasantly surprised by Liam Robertson goal. I don't think he's a threat. I think he'll lose his spot once Stefan is fit again. This injury that seems to just sort of be niggling and sort of dragging along, but I think he'll come back in. But I think Liam Roberts has been a very sort of capable fill-in, which I think has been a nice sort of bonus for them. Jones gets so high in attack, looks a threat. I think we flagged. I know I flagged it somewhere before the game. I forget. I say things in so many places. His annoying habit of picking up bookings. That was his fourth already of the season.
One away from a game ban.
Yeah. So for those sort of planning ahead, potentially for boosts in multiple weeks' time, just remember he's one booking away from a suspension now. Which is a frustration, but you look at, and I thought actually it was interesting because one of the things we've sort of wondered a bit with him is his defensive capabilities. Aside from the challenge that he got booked for, I thought he actually did really well defensively. He was winning a number of tackles. He was, not only using his pace to recover, but whoever he was matched up against was struggling to get past him in the first place. And so I do think that was an interesting thing for him. If he can sort of add a bit more defensive capability to his game, that's obviously a positive. I think it's generally quite a solid team. I thought we criticised Matt Clark after the last game. I thought he was much better in this game. He still had the odd moment, but I thought he was much better. He looked much more sort of settled. Maybe it's just that he hadn't been there that long and he went straight into the starting lineup, and as he finds his feet a bit more, he'll improve. But I thought he looked much better in this game, and yeah, I think it's tough for Stewart owners from a Gaffr point of view, because it would have been interesting to see how he would have gone up against that defence, particularly with the form he's in. They cut to him at least 5 or 6 times, sat in the front row, looking very sad. And on the Middlesbrough side, I mean, McNair went off injured, which might be an issue for them. But Jones, aside from his booking, looked good. Giles looked good again. Crooks, I think, is an interesting option. McGree, I think, is an interesting option. And Muniz. So we're at a point now where we thought we'd be at, where you're still talking about 4 or 5 potential assets from Middlesbrough, even though they haven't had that good a start to the season. I don't know if you have anything to add on this game, Dan.
Just with the options, I think it was quite telling that McGree came off first. Um, like he played well, but he still came off for Watmore pretty early on, 68th minute. I think Muniz is gonna play a lot of the minutes, um, especially as we've had a whole week before this game week. So if someone's playing away days, I'd be pretty confident that Muniz would probably start, which is what you want. Um, but yeah, like, it's just that Jones 4 yellow cards. You sort of maybe want him to get booked this game week so he gets his suspension out of the way. I know it's not ideal if you're playing away days later on. I also thought they managed the game better this match. I've seen it a few times that they pretty much kept going for the second and the third, whereas it with about 10, 15 minutes, it was pretty much we're just going to hang on and we'll hit you on the counter. So a lot better game management for Borough, and got the double up, and they finally kept a clean sheet, so that was good.
Yeah, perfectly timed as well on the
Yeah,
park the bus. If I wanted it to pay off one time, it was this one.
yeah.
No particular concerns for me from a Sunderland point of view. I know they're going to be without Stewart, but I think they still look decently set up. I don't know about you. Any real concerns there?
I'm not convinced they're great defensively. So as I've mentioned before, if you've got players playing against Sunderland, just play them. Be interesting to see if they keep with Pritchard and Roberts behind Sims, because if you said he's out for 2, 3 weeks, I'm not sure they've really got another striker to come in to play up front, so they'll probably have to stick with that. Might see him go to four at the back and maybe go to proper wingers. Maybe push Clark further forward.
Yeah, although as
Um,
I said a couple of times during that game, his
yeah,
end
he
product
won't.
in this game was hilariously bad. But
It was, but the game before he got 2 assists
yeah,
and a goal, so it's probably just he's still quite young.
yeah.
Was he probably 20, 21? I think.
Um, but
But
yeah,
yeah, it's
I
pretty.
think it's not necessarily overly reason for concern. I think also we can sort of just finish off by saying it's difficult to assess because it happened sort of half an hour before the game where they
Yeah,
would have been planning to play a particular way and then you have to change it and you don't have a like for like replacement and everything. So we'll see how it goes, but we'll move on. The next game we've got is Swansea 1, QPR nil. Dan, talk to us about this one.
yeah. So there's quite a few changes for Swansea. Obviously, Fisher was dropped. So was Darling, who interestingly he both had a MK and who sort of know the way he wants to play, but they got dropped. Patterson was back in, played on the wing. As you mentioned, Obafemi was left out of the squad. I don't know if that was because a few bids were turned down from him from Burnley last couple of the transfer window days. Um, but they seemed a lot better in this. I will say that I think it was in the. I'll go on to QPR. They pretty much named their strongest team. Um, I think it was in the first couple of minutes. Willett got played in over the top, and was it
Cabango.
Cabango, who's just come back from a suspension, basically pulled Willock, and he's just got to go
He's got to
down
go
in
down.
Willock.
He's got to
If he
go
goes
down.
down, it's he gets
Yeah.
he gets the foul. But then it was pretty much mainly Swansea for the rest. They created six big chances in this game. Swansea. Piero missed a penalty saved by Dieng, and then he finally got his goal assist by Cooper. Um, Yeah, it was just a lot more balanced. And what I found interesting is since Martin's been there, he's been on possession. Well, they had 46 possession in this game, so it seemed like they planned to give up possession. Um, so it'll be interesting to see if they stick to this sort of thing where they give other teams the ball because we mentioned before it was becoming quite predictable how to play Swansea. You just let them have the ball and then either hit them on the counter or set piece them. Um, but yeah, good performance. Piero 3 goals in a week, and QPR. I don't think it's anything to worry about. Willock and Chair are still good options. Chair was in the bonus again. The, the main thing is Fisher really needs replacing now. I think. I don't know if you've got anything more about this game, Angus.
No, just the Fisher thing. It sounded a lot from what Martin was saying, like he's been dropped. He said he was talking about
Yeah,
the intensity of the number of games that Fisher had played, and about how Bender deserved a game because of how well he'd been training or whatever. It sounded a lot like Fisher's been dropped.
yeah,
And Obafemi, Martin said it was basically his head had been turned by, I think they had 3 deadline day bids from Burnley for him, and his head had been turned by all of it. And Martin just decided the best thing for everyone was to give him the weekend off and have him come back in on Monday, sort of ready to get back to it. So we'll see whether he comes back into the team, but that's why he wasn't even in the squad, which I think is fair enough from him, just sort of like to just try and reset the situation. I think it might actually work out quite well for them, but sort of that's the reason why. But we'll move on to the next game, which is Rotherham 1, Watford 1. Obviously, the big headline, as we mentioned, sort of when we did our sort of team reviews, was no Ismaila Sarr. It's the 3rd time he's missed out with a minor injury that wasn't mentioned in a presser. So if everyone wants to sort of go and blame Rob Edwards, be my guest. I think in general, the interesting thing is the Rotherham team seems to be generally quite settled at this point. There's the odd sort of spot that rotates in it, but a lot of it is quite consistent at this point. And I mean, they obviously got the goal early through Wood again. Centre back popping up with another goal. I know David Strom had him benched this week, so I can totally understand why. It's just then. It's obviously happened again, and then Bayo with a goal again after scoring on his debut has got 2 in 2. The assists on those first for Wes Hardings, the Rotherham defenders assisting each other, and then Ken Semmer with the assist for Bayo. Yeah, I mean, it's Watford still struggling a little bit. They didn't even really outperform Rotherham that much, particularly if you look at things like the sort of chances created and everything. And I think that they had a lot more of the ball, but didn't have that many more chances than Rotherham. That would be the slight concern for them. I still think they're pretty solid at the back, but the fact that Ciaralta was on the bench and Ismaila Sarr wasn't even in the squad will obviously have thrown a few off in Gaffr terms. Hopefully we'll have sort of an update as to why later in the week, but that's sort of the main concern from this game. I don't know if you have anything else really to add on this one, Dan.
I just wanted to mention about Kem Semmer. He's sort of going a bit under the radar. Um, he's got 50 points already. I know he's sort of playing wing back, but they're quite attacking, and he's only 7.1. So although he's not going to be the main man, but at 7.1 he doesn't really have to be.
Yeah.
I just think he's sort of gone a bit under the radar.
Yeah, I think it's because we look at him, particularly at 7.1, as a midfielder playing wing back, and our brains go, no, that's bad.
Yeah, but he seems to be getting a lot of assists and
Yeah.
goals. So
Right, we've got 2 games left. We might not have a great deal to say about them. Although you've got an interesting sort of note in this one, I guess. Huddersfield nil, Blackpool 1.
yeah, Huddersfield Hogg played centre back. Blackpool, Corbeau and Paveda played either side of Yates, so it was more of a 4-3-3. Corbeau with the goal again, so that's now 3-3. Huddersfield had a goal not given. Goal line technology failed. EFL come out and said it. So yeah, not really a fan of VAR or goal line technology at the minute, Huddersfield. So yeah, I don't know where to go. The only person I can say is that Corbeau, and I think he's 5.5 or 5.6, and he's 3-3. But he'd probably only come in if I'm playing maybe an away day or maybe later down the season, maybe budget buster or something like that. To be honest, I'd be looking to target both of these teams. To be honest,
Yeah, aside from the sort of the not given goal and Corbianu scoring again, I don't think there's much of note in this one, to be honest. But obviously a big 3 points for Blackpool in the end.
yeah.
But yeah, we'll move on to the last game because I don't have anything to add there, which is Preston nil, Birmingham 1. The headline being that Preston finally conceded, and just as we all predicted, it was to Birmingham.
Yeah.
And it was to Maxime Collan, of all people.
15-pointer, was it 15-pointer?
I think so, yeah. Clean sheet and a goal. Top bonus, I think it was as well, yeah. I think, to be fair, we've said numerous times that's been waiting to happen with Preston. It's not like they've been so solid and just not conceding chances or anything. They've kind of ridden their luck, and it finally burned them in this one. Inconvenient, given that a lot of us were on Park the Bus with Robbie Brady, and now is when they decide to concede. But
still got bonus. So.
Yeah, I was about to say he's still got in the bonus. It was still fine. Jordan Graham with a really good ball in for Collan's goal as well. Reece started with Parrott in this one. That was the other thing of note. And when they needed to change things, Parrott went off and Reece stayed on. So
yeah,
maybe that's sort of shifting now. Apart from that, not a lot to note on this game. Do you have much to add on this, Dan?
I just wanted to add for Birmingham, they had Bielik finally started, quality player, and they've signed Chong back permanently. They just looked a lot better, especially in centre mid. The last few weeks they were playing a couple of youngsters in there, so might be similar to Reading, that they've got a lot of. If they can keep the starting 11 fit, they've probably got a lot of good pros there now that might pick up points, but we'll have to wait and see. Let's put it. I'd still play my better players against them. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, very much so. So that's all the games. It's we're only sort of an hour and 15 minutes in, so let's get on with the questions. FPL Coyote has asked us, what do you guys think are the best 2 chips, their boosts, to use between now and game week 16? He's already used away days. And when would be the best time to use it? His team below is 221st. Very quickly running through. He's got Lumley. His defenders are Brady, Giles, Sorinola, Aarons and Roberts. His midfielders are Chair, Semmer, Ndiaye, Baker and Field. And his forwards are Byman, Grant and Estupinian. So without getting too specifically into his team setup there, because I think it's quite similar to a lot of people, and a lot of people will be thinking the same sort of thing. If you've only played away days, what do you think are the two? Let's start with what do you think are the two best other boosts to use?
It's tricky. But you have to you have to play part of the bus.
I think so.
You just got to look at the last game week.
The last two, because you think we played it with the pod
Yeah,
team the week before and did really well
got
the
over
last
100.
2 game weeks.
Yeah, you just the options in defence are just so good. Not
Yeah,
just from clean sheets, but attacking and picking up bonus. You've really got to play that. The other one's really hard because um, midfield dynamos. I'm not sure if your team's set up for it at the minute. Maybe it's just a captaincy punt. Um, I know a lot of people waiting for Coventry. If the game would be put into before game week 15, I'm not sure it's been announced. If any have yet, I don't think it has.
no,
Maybe it's just overhauling. Or I
yeah,
don't know. It's really tricky. It's
yeah. I think that's the thing, really, isn't it? You got to play park the bus, and I think in terms of weeks to do it, it's just whenever, like as in not literally whenever, but like it just depends on the defenders you've got. A lot of them you're going to find a decent week where they all sort of coincide. If you need to make the odd
yeah,
move to change that, that's simple enough. You just identify a particular week. And then, yeah, you can either pick a week to play. I mean, he's got there Chair, Semmer, Ndiaye, Baker, and Field. There's the argument to make that you're not far away from a decent midfield dynamos
yeah,
there, depending on the week. Again, for the sake of the audio and the sake of the time, we're not going to go sort of looking for weeks to play it, but there's probably decent weeks to potentially play that, or the overhaul. You you might want to sort of just change up your team, change up the balance of the team, and so that presents the opportunity to do that. But we'll move on from that. And FPL Odyssey question. He has asked, assuming Andy Fisher is now a sell following his benching versus QPR, who are the best keeper options? He has up to 5.8 to spend, but would rather keep to 5 million and below. So Dan, what do you think on this one?
I think if we start with the cheaper ones first, I think Johansson's done quite well at Rotherham. I think barring the Sunderland game, a lot of the matches have been quite close. They don't seem to be conceding a lot of goals, Rotherham. Um, the other one I've I'm sort of looking at is maybe Amos from Wigan. I think they've played a few tricky games and they're coming into a decent run. Um, he did miss a couple of games, but that was through injury. And I
Yeah,
think last year in League One, I think he played the whole
yeah,
season, so he's pretty much nailed. Um, Ruddy's done quite well at times for Birmingham. He looks like he's number one. Um, I don't know if you've got any more, maybe a bit higher up, Angus.
yeah. I think that's the thing with those. I mean, Ruddy, I'd probably say that the looking ahead, the fixtures aren't great for them, so it might be what he might be one
Yeah,
to stay away from. Um, the one that a lot of people are going to point to is Freddie Woodman, who's obviously the top scorer. That would be right at the top of the end of your budget, and I'm still not entirely convinced by them defensively. I think if you look at the numbers, they're a good but not great defensive team who've ridden their luck a little bit. So he's sort of an option. The one that I was mentioning to you earlier, if you were wanting to go up, if you're wanting to have sort of a higher priced keeper, I like Horvath, Luton. Decent fixtures coming up, decent setup defensively, and a decent goalkeeper to boot. So I think
yeah.
if you're wanting to sort of spend on your goalkeeper position, I
Just,
think
just,
that's an option.
just going on for Horfath. I know we've conceded. I think we've conceded 8 goals. I think I was looking. We've got the third lowest XG conceded. Um, And thinking back through a lot of the goals, I think three have been outside the box, and one was that Brad Potts goal, which was absolutely ridiculous. So we've not really been conceding too many big chances. You could probably say we've conceded a lot more than we probably should have done. So I definitely think Hallfarth is a good option.
Yeah, and then the other one that's slightly more expensive that I would mention is I think he's still at 5 is Seny Dieng.
Yeah,
I think he's a good keeper, and QPR I think are coming into a decent run of fixtures,
I
or in the
just don't
midst of a
trust
decent
him
run of fixtures.
defensively.
No, but then again, with a keeper like that, saves to be made.
Yeah,
Um,
it's true.
so yeah, that might be the other one, but I'd possibly look at some of the cheaper options anyway. FPL Frustration asks, what are your thoughts on the best forward options at the moment, particularly considering Sargent, Vyman, and Muniz? Keep up the good work, Jen. So I think those are three of the best forward options.
See, I'm not sure at the minute. I don't think there are a set. It's not like in previous years, especially last year when there was probably three or four really good options. The year before it was Pookie and Tony. It's not settled yet, so I think this is one of the reasons why captaincy's been um, so hard to pick or so hard to get. Um, the three you've named, I could have faults with all of them. Sargent's playing right wing now. He's not. He is not the main man. Pookie is. Byman's playing deeper, and Muniz is one bad game week away from being benched or taken off at 60 minutes. So it's really hard. Who would you say are the three? Would you have put Stewart in there and
I probably would have put Stewart in.
yeah,
I'd say Estupinian. In part, we've seen this weekend Sheffield United away, one of the toughest games you can have, and he had chances. He ended up in the bonus. Like,
yeah,
still only 6.7. Like, that's what that enables you to do as well. I think is really good. Um, I
James Rodriguez?
I was about to say I really like Jay Rodriguez. He was the other one that I was going to mention, and then I think you could still make an argument for someone like Andy Vyman, even though he's not scoring, he's picking up points, he's picking up returns with the assists. I'd be a little bit worried about the goals, but
Yeah,
him or maybe someone like, I don't want to say Sargent is among the best options. Maybe someone like Brereton Diaz, um, who's sort of, obviously we look at him and the pedigree that he's shown for just over a year now, and I think
yeah.
now that he's still going to be here till January at least, I think that he could be one of the best options to go with now.
What about Zhao Pedro?
I really like Joao Pedro. I'm a little bit concerned about what's going on at Watford at the moment and some of these sort
Yeah,
of players missing out, the forward options they've got. What effect does it have for him with, as we assume Keenan Davis is going to get more minutes, etc. So I'd just like to see that play out a little bit, but I do like him as an option. Next one we've got is from Amra Batman Joe. He's got Josh Bowler. Needs to replace him for best replacements for 7.1 and under.
there you go. Semmer.
Yeah. Joe, as a Watford fan, like
Yeah, there
whether
you
you
go,
want to
mate.
do that to yourself. I mean, an option that we're always going to put forward at this point is Josh Brownhill.
Yeah, I think he's good.
We mentioned Tom Ince. I think he's still playing well. The sort of Ogbene train seems to be stalling a little bit.
Yeah.
I'd say maybe have a look at someone like Matt Crooks at Middlesbrough as well. I don't know if you've got anyone else, Dan.
I think the Sunderland, Clark or Pritchard,
Yeah.
I think they'll tick over
Yeah, I mean,
throughout the
Pritchard
season.
still had a chance on Monday night as well, a good chance. So, yeah. FPL Commander has asked what to do with Sarr and Stewart, who to replace if they are out for a while. Well, we've said with Stewart, it's at best 2 to 3 weeks, so I think he's a sell. Depending on, I guess we've named sort of the best options, depending on how much you've got to spend. Sideways to someone like a Stupinian, up to someone like Jay Rodriguez. Or you shift it right around and you get someone like Brereton Diaz in. If you can't get up, then I guess someone like Conway, in the knowledge that at any moment he could be out the team, but I still think while he's in there, it's probably a decent option. Anyone else that you'd like to put forward, Dan?
Not sure really. Not striker wise, I think we've mentioned most of them. For Sarr, I think you've just got to keep him.
Yeah.
And unless you hear anything,
unless we hear he's going to be out for sort of 3 weeks or whatever, then you just hold.
It's annoying, but I think you have to.
Yeah. If you hear he's out, it's the same old suspects, isn't it? It's the West Brom guys. It's Chair and Willock. It's potentially someone like Teller as well. I think it's the same sort of people that we keep mentioning. Mike Day asked us what to do about Stewart. I already have triple Bristol City. We've just covered that. FPL Mr. Llewellyn has asked us, are you worried about owning Preston defensive players? Now the clean sheet record has gone, will Preston show that they're really not a great team? I hadn't really considered the idea that conceding a goal might sort of, cause the dam to burst and all of a sudden the goals start flying in. I think there's still a solid team. I think they were overperforming in terms of the clean sheets they were keeping, but I don't think they're suddenly going to keep none. I don't know if you sort of disagree, Dan.
Well, I've only got Brady and what's he, 5.2 million. If it worst comes to worst, I just bench him. He's as we saw this week. They conceded, but he still got bonus.
Yeah,
like it's not a problem. Some of these defenders who are on set pieces, because of the way the key passes work, they basically just, if he puts over 3 or 4 good corners or free kicks, they'll be in the bonus every week anyway, unless it's like 3-3 or something something like that. So yeah, I haven't got a problem with Brady, especially.
Yeah. FPL Buddy asks us Sarr and Stewart news, if any. We've sort of covered that. Neil Thompson is said, afternoon. Sorry if these are duplicated. Not had the time to check it through. 1, would you keep Pookie now? If not, where would you go? 2, 1 to 10. How high is the need to transfer Jones to Giles? 3, form over fixtures or vice versa. And 4, was Fisher injured or dropped? Thanks again. So I think it's really cheeky to dress it up like he's only asking 1 question and then asking 4.
Yeah.
To cover them quickly, would you keep Pookie now?
100%.
Yeah. 2, 1 to 10. How high is the need to transfer Jones to Giles?
It's getting higher every week.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say, Angus?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. I think, particularly with that yellow card factor in there, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. 3, form over fixtures or vice versa.
It's hard. I'm one of these people who think if you've got good fixtures, you end up getting form anyway. So
yeah, I think it sounds like a cop out, but the answer is a bit of both.
Yeah.
And 4, was Fisher injured or dropped? We think he certainly wasn't injured. We think he was dropped. And we don't think it's a rotation or anything like that. I think it's dropping. Rob Pick is asked as the best third borough asset. Crooks, McGree, Muniz, bonus Hog Mowat, who got 4 bonus for next to nothing versus Sunderland. Also best goalkeeper for away days this week for Fisher owners. Cheers. So best third borough asset, Dan?
Muniz.
And
I think the upside, he could go big. I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I everyone knows I love Riley McGree, but I think Muniz is the best option. And the best goalkeeper for those on away days this week to replace Fisher.
I don't know. That's tricky.
So I've had this conversation with Rob. So, I know the answers that I came up with initially, particularly when I was thinking of still playing away days, was either Matt Ingram.
Really?
Because they play Cardiff.
It's just Hull was so attacking.
Or what I'd probably do, Fisher owners, I'm assuming a lot of you have Dean Bouzanis. If you have the budget, I'd go Bouzanis to Bender, and then you're covered whoever plays.
Yeah.
That would I think Bender's 4.5. So that would probably be my solution, and then you could potentially sell Fisher afterwards. But given
you could go Horvath.
Yeah.
Horvath.
Yeah, against Stoke potentially. But yeah, those are the ones I'd probably look at. To be honest, I think he has Fisher and Bouzanis. Probably my number one option would be to move Bouzanis to Bender, and then you're covered whatever Martin decides to do, because I think that fixture against Birmingham is a great one to have on away days. So that would probably be the way I would go. If not, either sort of sideways in terms of price to Ingram, or potentially up to Horvath. Shibidibidibit has asked us, best replacement for Lowe if injured, have 6.5 million and already have Aarons, Bree, Giles and Brady. So obviously we've covered he is injured. In terms of the replacement is obviously already got Aarons, Bree, Giles and Brady. Like I say, who would you say is sort of the best replacement outside of those guys?
I think I'd probably just go to the other Sheffield United defender.
The
centre back. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks like he's going to be nailed. I think he went across to left-sided centre-back, and Norrington Davis moved to left wing-back when Basham came on. So he can play on either side, which is obviously a big boost in terms of his ability to stay in the team. I also think, given that you would assume he's nailed at this point, Reece Norrington Davis, just the literal sideways move.
Well, then maybe QPR, either.
I was going to say, you've got Laird or Powell.
Yeah, I think attacking returns, they're going to do well, I think.
It's sort of boring, but we're going to end up recommending the same people. But yeah,
Kamara, I think Watford.
Yeah, that's sort of the other option, but I'd probably sort of go for those potentially slightly cheaper options, particularly if you're looking at Norrington Davis for the sideways move. Darren, Auto-Reclose, has asked us, which would you sell, Jed Wallace or Swift?
I've got Swift and I've wanted Wallace. I would sell Swift.
So it's interesting because I have the double up, and I've been considering, particularly until this weekend when he missed out, I really wanted Ismail Assar. So I knew I had to sell one of them to get to Ismail Assar. And I was looking at selling Jed Wallace.
I don't know about that.
Swift has been more involved recently than Wallace. It's also worth noting that Wallace has lost quite a few of those set pieces to John Swift. So you're relying on the open play crosses, because a lot of those corners that they do have a habit of getting on the end of have gone to John Swift. Which is why you see John Swift. I think it's part of the reason why you see John Swift more reliably in the bonus at the moment than Jed Wallace, and higher in the bonus than Jed Wallace. So Jed Wallace obviously will have his moments, will return and will get bonus. He's got bonus again this week. But given that it's sort of a decision that I am sort of facing up myself, I can only say that my feeling is to sell Wallace of the two. But it's a very close call, I think, is the other thing that's worth saying. Niall Fairbrother has asked us, best striker to get to replace Obafemi, Was going to get Stewart, but now I'm not sure. I have 11.5 to spend after selling Obafemi. Can you get Pookie?
I'd get Pookie.
Especially because almost no one's going to be on him now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Pookie's 11.4, isn't he?
I'm gonna have to
He
look
got the
this
price.
up. It's great
he got
for the
price
audio.
drop, didn't he?
Yeah, he's 11.4. So yeah.
I'd get Pookie.
Pookie. If not, I'd probably go to Brereton Diaz. But yeah, I really like the idea of having Pookie as a differential.
Yeah.
Ski House 78's question was about the sort of points issue on the site, which should hopefully be getting rectified. Petri Annanen has asked us, is it time to go for Lucas Xiao?
It's not terrible.
Yeah, I mean, he's been in the goals. We've managed to mention a lot of strikers without mentioning him, but I think that's part of the thing, isn't it, at the moment? We still look at Reading and think, not sure about them, one of the worst teams in the league, but they're not, are they?
They're not. And they got Watford this week, though. Wait, they seem to be good at home.
Yeah.
Sunderland, Huddersfield. I don't know.
It's tough because I think you could certainly make an argument after this week, and it might be that you need to make the move this week because of the way your team is structured or something like that. If you've got a player out, you might as well make the move this week in the hopes that you get something against Watford. You've then got Sunderland, Wigan, Huddersfield as the next three afterwards. It's not bad.
No, it's pretty good, to be honest.
So yeah, I think he's potentially an option. I think if you've got an issue that needs solving, he might be one that's worth going to this week and just hope that he manages to get something against Watford. And the final question is from AD Tour. He says, who is the best Watford defender?
Kamara.
It's Kamara, yeah.
Yeah.
And particularly with some of the centre-back rotation at this point, I don't think it's particularly close.
No.
So that's all the questions. We've been going for a tidy 1 hour and 37 minutes, although I do think there was quite a lot to cover this week with some of the injuries and everything. So thank you for joining us. Thank you if you've got all the way through to the end of this. I think this will be about as long as it gets in terms of the time of the podcast, but with some of these sort of key issues, particularly around the likes of Stewart and Sarr and everything else, there was quite a lot to cover. Hopefully this has helped you. I forget what the turnaround is for the next game week in terms of when we'll next be back.
I think it's going to have to be Sunday because there's midweek games in there.
Yeah, so we'll be back to you early next week with a review of game week 9. I hope all of you on away days don't enjoy it too much now that I'm not playing it. And yeah, we'll speak to you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.